Hello, my name is Jude PHILIPMARY, the Director of Unconscious Lesson Nigeria. It will seem these days that we no longer have students who repeat classes. Almost every student today is being promoted to the next class, regardless of the performance of the students. And we see this especially in the private schools. And how is it that we have students today who score 80% in physics, 80% in math, 80% in other subjects? But when you assess them, ask them questions on what they actually got in their tests and their exams, they will be unable to answer you. Like they cannot defend what they hold as certificates or as results. What is actually happening to our schools today? We discovered from the last assessment tests, the last holiday, summer holiday lessons that we did in our co-partner school in ASABA. After assessing all the students in mathematics and physics, we discovered that none of the students, absolutely none, was able to get up to 50% in mathematics and physics. I'm talking about from the primary school level to the secondary school level. Of course, the primary school and the junior secondary school, where mathematics, and the senior secondary school, the assessments, tests in mathematics and in physics. And none of them got up to 50%. It is not really surprising, actually, because during the coachings, the lessons, that's too relaxed, behavior was seen in them. There is no commitment. There is no enough seriousness. And of course, we tried our possible best to see how we could make them know that this is important. This is education. This is what you have to use to build your own future, to have a good future for yourself. And we managed to, bring them to concentrate and become serious. But we discovered that it was seen that they have been given that particular orientation, that they ought to just relax and do not have to worry because somehow they are going to pass. That is the ideology they seem to be having, or the mentality they seem to be having. That it's okay, you can relax, you can do whatever you like, somehow you're still gonna pass. Nothing's gonna happen, everything's gonna be all right. The schools of today, what is going on? And the parents at home, what is going on? Let me start with the parents. Yes, maybe you believe that all of the work has to be on the teachers that are, at schools, at the schools who send your children. All of the work doesn't have to be on them. You as the parents, has work to do at home. I completely understand the fact that Nigeria is difficult, that you have to go out to work and to be able to get the money to feed them, to pay their school fees, and to pay the other bills in the house. But if you consider education necessary, if you consider it something worth doing, sending it to school to learn, then you ought to and you have to bring out that time that is needed to do your own part to be sure that they are well educated. And what is your part? You ought to teach your children, and you ought to make it a rule, a law in your house, that your kids will have to read, study on a daily basis their subjects, topics they are taught at school or at lesson. You ought to dedicate at least 1 hour per day to study. It ought to be a law that is punishable if it is broken. If you are so busy, you go to work, there's no time, you really have to look for a way to bring this about. This is the reason. Commitment is needed in a part of the students in order for any learning to be effective. That is, for someone to say, I have learned. The person who is a student will need to contribute his or her own quota, his or her own part. He or she needs to play his or her own part in the learning process. What is the part the person ought to play? The person ought to be committed by studying, doing revisions on constant basis. It doesn't just have to be with the assignments that the person is given from school or from lesson. Students will also have to, by himself or by herself, provide questions from the textbook. Answer those questions. And those ones that he or she cannot answer, take them to the teacher and ask questions so that the teacher will help teach him or her. That is what is commitment. And if your child is not doing that, then know that he or she is not doing what is going to help him or her to actually learn. And what is that going to amount to? It's going to amount to that situation whereby the person's education will be what? Not complete. That is malformed education. So, your child may bring back home that certificate shining. Excellent, 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 excellent. Very good, very good, very good. That is what we see, schools like giving that because they see that is what pleases parents. Parents will always want to see that, and when they see that, they believe that the child is doing well. But do not be deceived. It is what your child can do. That is what proves whether he or she is learning. So if your child is not doing his or her own part, as I just explained, then you ought to make it a law in your house so that he or she can begin doing that which is necessary for him or her to be educated. Then the part of schools, school heads, teachers, especially school heads. I completely understand the fact that parents wouldn't want their children to repeat the class, possibly because they will have to pay school fees and all of that. But I wish to beg you, as your fellow in education, it is not really about what the parents like or what they dislike. You are an educator. It is your responsibility to serve education. You are not serving the parents. Well, you're serving the parents indirectly. But the foremost institution is education. That is what you are serving. You're trying to educate people. You are educating Nigerians. You're educating citizens. Or if you're not a Nigerian, you are educating the children of the country where you belong. So, what that means is that the parents will not have to decide what it ought to be. It is the ethics of education that ought to be followed. That is, those rules, those principles, those behavior, those characters that is going to bring about effective or completion of education. That is the rules that you ought to maintain. That is what you ought to follow. So, if money is looked at first before impacting knowledge, that is, you're looking at the money more than you're looking at impacting knowledge, then that is where the big problem is. You will definitely miss it. Because you will always want to do it the way the parents want it to be done. You always pass the students. Yeah, go to the next class, even though you got 0 over 100, it's okay. Just go to the next class. That is what your parents want. No, it shouldn't be so. Because if your pocket is filled today, what happens to Nigeria tomorrow? The pockets of your children will be empty. Why? Because you are training the leaders of tomorrow and they will have empty heads. Nothing is in their heads. So when they get to that place, they will behave like touts. They will not govern properly. And that is what is going to make the pockets of your children who may not be with them then. They might just be walking under them. Somehow they got to that place as the heads and they mismanaged government. And what happened? Your children's pockets is empty. So yes, the pocket is filled today, but know that tomorrow it could become empty because of what you did yesterday. So I beg you to follow the rules of education. Do your possible best to do what is right. Teach them what is right. Anybody that failed should be failed. If the person failed, right fail, you failed, repeat. That is what it ought to be. Don't promote people who did not do well. If the person fails his or her exams, let the person be failed and let the person repeat. If the person doesn't like it, let the person go and read. Yes. And that is what it's meant to be. Failure is not killing people. That is not what it means. It means setting things right. It means letting them know that they ought to do it the right way because the right way is the only right way. There is no other way. Because if we don't get it right, then we are going to suffer for not getting it right. Tomorrow, the future is going to tell. So please, regardless of the fact that the parents might want to pull their children out of the school and you begin to have fewer students, I beg you to stand your ground. You might need to look for other ways, other businesses you could do to sustain yourself. You don't have to like put all your money in education and all of that. You will have to look for other things to do to fend for yourself. But trust me that if you maintain the rules, if you stay true to the ethics of education, you're not going to lose. The present moment, it is sad that the system has been corrupted. It seems everybody is doing it, the wrong way now, just to survive. People are no longer following what is right. People are no longer interested in doing what is right. Because it seems as if what is right doesn't pay. But if you're listening to me right now, I am begging you to choose the right path. It may not pay now. You might see yourself, getting smaller. But if somehow you can find something else that can sustain you, your living, trust me that your school in the nearest future is going to become one of the best schools in whatever town you are. I can assure you that. Because people will soon begin to realize that good you have done, following the rules of education, will begin to form all of those persons who remain, because it is not all of them that will leave. Some will still remain. Some will understand what you are doing. Some will know, even though they are few, they will know you are doing the right thing. They will understand that this is what should be done, and this is the way out of our problems. They will stay with you. Form them. Continue with them. In the nearest future, those people who left will begin to see that the people you have formed are amongst the best in town. They will regret leaving. And immediately they realize, and so many other people will also realize because they will see the testimonies, they will begin to come. And before you know it, you can't even count the number of students you're going to have, because there will be so many that even you will begin to reject some. There's a price to pay, though, for following the right path, especially in a corrupt system. But if all of us must come out of the corruption that Nigeria is in today, the situation of Nigeria today, we must all begin to do what is right, regardless of the sector that we are in, whether in education, whether in whatever field that we belong to, in the civil service, whatever ministry you're in there. If we all begin to do what is right today, this, this bad situation of the country will be corrected in a far time. So I have used this medium to address educators and parents. Parents who go to the schools and begin to disturb the school principal or the head teacher that you want your child to be promoted to the next class, you want this, you want that, and you threaten that if you don't do it, you're going to pull the child out of the school. I do not know why you do that. And I do not understand what is your aim. But I want to beg you to consider the fact that your child has a future. And what you're doing is really about his future. It shouldn't be about your own personal gain or your interests, or because you want to answer one particular name or whatever. It should be about the future of the person that you are sending to school. So do that thing that is going to help the person, not what is going to destroy him or her. Remember, whatever he or she becomes tomorrow, he or she will always look back, try to see where he or she is coming from. And if he or she realizes that you are part of the problem, or you were part of the problem, what do you think he or she will do? So think about this before you go to that school where your child goes to and begin to disturb the principal or begin to threaten the head teacher, or even when they scold your child for doing what is wrong, you go there and you begin to scold them and try to threaten them. Know that it will come back to you tomorrow. You are not doing what is right, and you have to stop it. Allow teachers to be teachers. Allow educators to be educators. And those who are going into the schools just for the money and not in order to educate, please look for other businesses. The school business is essentially about raising responsible, learned citizens. That is what it is about. That is the foremost aim. After that comes the money, which you are only going to get as a reward for the labor. But let the labor be done first. The labor must be done before the reward will come. The reward cannot come if the labor isn't done. Those people who try to get the reward without the labor know that you are causing havoc to this nation, and that havoc you are causing will somehow come back to you. Thank you.